our side is open, so we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Judge
Mayor.
Bell. I'll call the August 29th special meeting of the Harris City Council meeting to order at 5:02. Note that there is a quorum present. Item number 2 is citizens forum. Persons desiring to address the council must limit their presentation to no more than 2 minutes. Unless an item is posted on the agenda, the Texas Open Meetings Act prohibits the council from responding to any comments other than to refer the matter to a future agenda, to an existing policy, or to a staff person with specific factual information. Claims against the city council members or employees, as well as individual personal appeals, are not appropriate for the citizens forum. If necessary, the city council may convene into executive session under Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code regarding any item on this agenda. I'll hereby open the public forum. If anyone wishes to come forward, please come now and state your name and address. Seeing none, I'll close the public forum. Item number 3, discuss a potential partnership with Lamar County for the purpose of establishing a joint fuel farm. Staff or Judge?
Judge, you're going to read your item next, too.
Okay, our item number 1 on our agenda this meeting is a workshop discussion of a potential partnership for creation of a fuel farm. This meeting is informational only. No action, deliberation, or decisions will be had by Lamar County Commissioners at this meeting.
All right. Well, I know the county requested this meeting, so I will turn it first over to the county. If any commissioner would like to speak first and go from there, and then we have things that we can share too. So
We just, y'all have folders, each council member, city managers, y'all both have a folder. It just, what we put in there, we put a preparation for our test tank. When we had the tests done on the tanks before we purchased the property, they are in there. Brian Brooks did the testing, gives you the date, what size the tanks are, and location. And then everything seemed to pass. We were there when he did the test, Alan Skidmore and I. Second thing you have in there, this is just a informational packet on kind of like fuel prices that have been going on through the year. One thing that city managers and all of us have kind of been discussing is what type of savings we might can have, plus having a location that's secured, and we'll also have generators on it once it's all prepared and in place if we choose to move forward with this. Commissioner Skidmore, he kind of, that come in at the last minute today. I was at the doctor's office, but he's kind of got it, kind of show you how to lay it out to look at the information. Just some information on the property. We've been cleaning extensively on that property out there on North Main. I don't know if any of you have been by there or not. You know, we have some future plans for it, maybe a radio communication tower out there in the future. Not sure what we're going to do with the building yet, what type of capacity it's going to be in, other than if we do this fuel farm together, part will be used for that. But the property was in pretty bad shape. It was pretty nasty back in there, but we've been cleaning extensively, trying to remove all the undergrowth and timber that's been back there that was in concrete. I don't know if y'all noticed all the concrete. There's tons and tons of concrete back there. So we're going to continue to clean it up, maybe start some control burns out there shortly. We've been mulching a lot of it, but we've got some we're going to have to burn, so we've got a burn permit to do that. We're just kind of getting the weather right and maybe catch a good rainy day and the wind's right where it doesn't put anybody out while we're doing it. So it's been a long battle out there cleaning on that thing, let me tell you.
Commissioner, I have a question. Can you address the comment section? I didn't understand exactly what that meant.
On the test tank,
Yes.
there's tank number 4 has got a leak from the top because the concrete's busted and they walked over the top of it. So that seal is letting water in the tank. So there's just about, what do you say, 2 inches of water down in there that we'll have cleaned out once all that concrete's going to be busted off and new lines put in. So once that is done, those tanks will be cleaned. That's what that comment is referring to.
Y'all got 32,000 on both sides, is that right?
It's just total, there's 4 tanks, so that's what the capacity for all 4 tanks will be.
What's our, do we have a projected savings kind of on, I mean, I know if we buy a truckload of fuel, obviously, and y'all, or we have our own key card system, how do we split that up, or how does that, is there a way to do that?
Wherever we put our systems in out there, it'll have a way to charge whatever vehicle or whatever entity is using it. In other words, if let's say the county used 15,000 in the month of January, the city used 24,000, that system will card that, log it, and then, I don't know that we can sell you guys fuel. We'll probably have to let you buy your fuel, we buy our fuel. The system will just calculate it and determine what usage and how it's paid.
So if there's 2 diesel and 2 gas, then we take a gas and diesel, and y'all take a gas and diesel, I guess?
It'd just probably be overall, because we're not gonna have like super unleaded and different fuels. It's just gonna be unleaded gasoline that's ethanol free and then diesel, so.
Cool.
Some of the things that we foresaw is if possible, make it simple, is to have the county kind of be in charge of ordering it if possible. And of course, we pay 100% of our associated expenses. I think that's fair. And then of course, they pay county, we pay city side. If there's any mutual shipping costs, we split them 50-50. Because looking at the numbers that they provided us and looking at our numbers, we use about the same amount of gas relatively to county and city. So it's pretty close to being 50-50. I feel good about that. I don't think we need to do 60-40, 70-30, just more 50-50. And so I think just be straight across, and it's just we go in together, and whatever our costs are, we pay. Whatever their costs, they pay. And if there's shared costs, we split it. If there's maintenance costs, I think it'd be fair we split it. And as I know, we talked about having our own fuel farm, but also since the county's already started that process, and we share the same taxpayers, it makes sense we go in together and share those costs together like that. So instead of having two fuel farms, have one fuel farm. And they manage and own it and maintain it, and then we have access to it on a 24/7 basis, and go from there. So that's kind of what we've envisioned. We've drafted a draft ILA in a local agreement. We're still putting some fine-tuned details on that, but we're going to share with you, and of course, negotiate back and forth, and we want to be fair for both sides. And because obviously we use the same taxpayers, it should be fair for the taxpayers for both sides. So, yeah.
So the construction cost is something that we'll share 50-50 though, right?
Well, that's one thing. I think we just found out today some numbers. We budgeted $150,000 to go towards that. I think they got some numbers a little higher than that, so we can work with that. We can try to go in 50-50, and again, it's only fair. And so I think again the county's kind of, as I understand, finalizing those numbers there. But once we get those, we'll adjust our expense of that, and we got the funding to do that. So, but it looks like we're not too far off from what we budgeted for.
What kind of security, like cameras or fencing, codes, and that sort of thing?
When we move forward, there'll be a fencing all the way around it, and then there'll be cameras on it as well.
Good.
So, there's no utilities at the building yet, because we went in there and we've done some demolition, getting to look at the condition of the building and things, so really we won't start putting that stuff back together till we all get a finalized plan of where we wanna go and how we wanna do it. But the only way you could have a place there that's unattended would be to have cameras and then have fencing to secure your location, so.
So, okay.
Well, I guess would you order a certain amount every month, or would it be for a longer period of time, shorter? And is that something that you can bid with an oil company, or?
Well, one of the things that you said our last workshop was that you can bid on other, like for instance, Tarrant County contract. I think they told us here the last time that the company was in here, it'd save us like 45 cents just by tagging on to that Tarrant County contract. But I'm sure there's others across Texas. That part of it, we're kind of new into this, so we're kind of learning what we can and can't do. Y'all have to follow bid laws, and so do we. But the way that the fuel will be accounted is there'll be a tank monitoring system on the fuel. So it'll count how much fuel you have in the tanks, levels daily. Or you can run it, I'm sure you can run that test however you want. But what we were thinking, if your card's just saying y'all use 10,000 gallons and y'all replace it with 10,000 gallons in a load, and then like if we use 20,000, then we would put 20,000 back. But that system will monitor and it will log everything in. so that you don't have to do it manually and it'll be an automatic system, so.
There's a trigger system, it's like our field farm at the airport. You asked me earlier if I'd done one, I forgot the airport's got a field farm, and so, but it has a monitoring system, once it gets to a certain level, you know to order the next shipment coming in, so you don't run out. And, because these things don't come always the next day, and so you got to plan ahead, but I think that's what you're talking about, Commissioner.
What we do on bid, obviously, however we can bid it to make it, transparent, public-wise, is.
Like us, we bid every 6 months for fuel.
Okay.
So it'll be out for bid, who can give us the best price at that time. But, even if you bid it, it's still fluctuating some.
Yeah.
So,
And what I propose is that we have the county bid it all together for us, instead of having two separate bids, city and county, but as one unit together. And I think probably, again, economy of scale would help us a little bit there, but have the county manage and control that instead of us trying to compete. Because obviously they're going to have the monitoring systems, the tanks and everything. So instead of having two parties trying to manage the same site, have the county manage it. It's what we foresee. So
What is our, y'all have an idea kind of our usage now
For
combined?
unleaded, we're just under 98,000 gallons, and for diesel, we're just over 90,000 for a year. That was July of last year, really this year.
That'd be good.
see, we're gonna be close to, like, for me, precinct 3, I used 35,000 gallons of diesel just last year, not counting my gas. So,
I have a question. So, the numbers I came up with is about, we use about 60,000 gallons of gasoline at the pump. That's not what y'all are using
no,
at
we
the
use it at the
precinct.
precinct, right.
And are y'all gonna continue to use,
There'll be some uses at the precinct, but our over-the-road trucks will use the fuel farm itself because they go by there every day, so.
so my question is, you mentioned saving 45 cents a gallon. Is that 45 cents off of what we're paying to have it delivered at the precincts now?
Yes, that will be a contract that we will bid off, I think the Tarrant County contract's the one that was quoted. So, and I think they're using that.
How does that work exactly?
It's just like when we do a bid deal for like, let's say I'm gonna buy a motor grader. We'll go off of a competitive bid from like Houston, Galveston. The city kinda does the same thing, y'all go off those other bids in other locations to save money. So you don't have to go out for bid and write the bid spec. Kinda like buy board tips, we use tips for our contractors some,
So you're saying that we would save 45 cents off of what we already bid to have delivered to
I'm not
us?
saying that's what they said in the last workshop.
Okay. Well, I'm sure they're good, honest, hardworking people, but they are the ones that's gonna sell us the fuel, so
We don't
I
know
would
that.
like,
We
yeah.
don't know that till
We
we
don't
go
know
for
that,
the
hasn't
bid.
been out for bid yet. You could.
I'd like to shore that up, is what I'm saying. That seems like a big
Trim
save.
Arnold, you can have WI, or you can have Blankenship, or you could have Clark Oil and Gas.
You give us the best price.
Right, I like it. You're gonna have a little over 3 loads of, 1 load of gas and 2 loads of diesel and vice versa the next month. But a little over 3 loads a month, that's pretty good market share, that ought to be
I'd be happy to hear from them.
it ought to be a game changer to me, in my opinion, both sides.
One thing I will say, a lot of people have been, the other counties that we've talked to, they're paying attention to what we're doing as a city and a county, I can tell you that.
Oh, yeah. Well, we need to, y'all can buy more gravel and we can buy more police cars. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Does anyone
Helps
else do
everybody.
the piggyback off of Tarrant County?
There's several, I think Denton County does. Now, I don't know anybody locally here to us that would, but
I just don't know how exactly that would work. Like I said, if the council's okay, we have Blankenship here with us, and if it's possible
Would you all like
to save
speak?
45 cents a gallon, I'd like to.
The 45 seems a little extreme. You just had a bid in June, the county did, on transport. The county situation would be different from the city, because the city at this point is not buying transported fuel. Tanker loads, when I say transport, that's 7,500 gallons of diesel, one trip. The county, the 4 precincts do that, the city does not. that fuel that goes to those locations, I would assume will continue to, you wouldn't want guys from Pattonville that are gonna be motor grade in Cunningham driving from Pattonville to North Main to get fuel, so they're still gonna have to continue to have fuel there. The first meeting, the numbers that came out was it was 1 million gallons combined. It's roughly 320 to 350,000 gallons combined. The city's at about 187. What goes through the pump, the wastewater treatment plant, the water treatment plant, the back lot at Hickory Street. There's several different locations. You know, I would, you know, if you could buy, I'm assuming when they talk about Tarrant County's contract, they're talking about futures. Well, the way futures work, when fuel is climbing, your futures are gonna be cheaper. But when fuel is falling, your futures are gonna be higher, because they buy in advance. I was curious to whether Hopkins County or Hunt County or these other entities, do they do something similar? I know Hunt County and Hopkins County have had fuel farms and they abandoned them and went and did something different because it was too much to deal with or whatever it may be. Now, they may not have had, you know, the location that we're talking about here. I could see them saving 45 cents as in relation to street price. What you see at the pump at Sevco or wherever, I could see you saving 45 cents there. At times, you're saving more than 45 cents. There was times before fuel started falling when diesel peaked at over when diesel peaked at over $5.20 a gallon. There was times the city, I believe in May, there were some weeks there that y'all paid $4.30, $4.40. You were 60 and 70 cents under. The gas, not so much. The margins on gas are very tight. Brookshire's, Walmart, those places, what you see at the pump is typically what it's cost. That's a loss leader. It's being sold as a loss leader. So gas, there's not as much margin. There's not as many people that buy contracts on gas. There's a lot of people that buy contracts on diesel. But there are some wider margins in diesel, and you're at an advantage to buy larger amounts. You definitely are. But, you know, at 100, just call it 200,000 a year, if you save 20 cents a gallon, which I think would be hard to do, unless there's something out there that I know that governments and entities do. I know to the east, Red River, Bowie, those counties, they don't do anything like that. I think it's an issue of being stockbrokers with council members who could possibly, the seat could change over time. As a taxpayer here, I think if there's a way to save money, I'm for it. And, you know, we keep that money here in Lamar County, I'm even more for it. You know, we feel that, you know, there's times that you're maxed out as how cheap you can buy it already, but there are times you're not. You know, if you had a larger, anytime you can tag along with such a huge entity as Tarrant County, I don't understand or know how they're buying their fuel, but I could see they're buying such a large amount that you could very well save some money. To save 45 cents under what you're saving now, I just don't, I can't say that it couldn't happen. I don't know that, but I just don't foresee that being that much. Now, in relation to pump or street price, maybe, because street price has got all your taxes figured in it. You guys would take 18.4 cents a gallon off right off the top for federal. Federal tax comes right off the top. The state tax, for some reason, state and city governments, they make you pay state tax. I still don't understand how that works. The game warden and the highway patrol need to pay state tax. But I think there's some, you know, there's definitely some savings there. It's what are you willing to spend to get it? You know, what's the return on your investment? You know.
Right, you brought up something that, you know, obviously you're not gonna drive a motor grader across town to go fill it up. across the county. But 3 of the precincts will be passing by there every day with their gravel trucks. So that will cut down on usage at the barns. My guys, where I'm located, will probably cut through, it's a shorter route for me to not go that way. But the other 3 precincts will be passing through there. So it would be more probably than what you initially thought.
Right. Well, I was looking at, my numbers say this county's at 60,000, a little over 60,000 gallons on unleaded alone. And over the previous 5 years, the precincts numbers have fluctuated based on the allotted money y'all had to spend. The more money you had, obviously, you had more money in fuel that you were going and getting rock. If you bought more rock, obviously, you bought more fuel. It fluctuated anywhere. On average, it went from 2 loads a year to 4 loads a year, And, when you see the number, when a load of fuel that comes through the council or the commissioner's court to be paid, it says $32,000. Well, fuel's so high, it's only 7,500 gallons. The money in relation to the gallons is what confuses people, and gets people thinking bigger numbers.
Right.
I think that's what caused in the previous meeting the number of 1 million gallons combined. I think that's probably where that came from, because the expenditure in reality, it was between 300 and 350,000 combined. The city's at about 180 something, 187. So they're actually not counting the precincts. Their usage would be 3 times the county. So it's not necessarily equal. It would be 3 times the county. But there are systems in place. There are systems out there that you can buy that will separate and do everything for you. It will separate. Parks Department can be filling up, and it'll send the bill to the proper department, and then right behind them could be Lamar County Maintenance getting fuel, and it would send them. There are some really neat systems out there, and y'all don't necessarily need anybody to do that for you. If you're really out for savings, I think you should look at not doing it with anybody. Do it with y'all do it together. I don't know why y'all couldn't, the city or the county couldn't get a permit or a contract with Valero or an unbranded source out of Kettle Mills to haul all the fuel. I mean, you could eliminate everybody out of it. And I don't know why other counties and cities aren't. I don't know that they're not doing that. Obviously, the larger they are, the more means they have. The smaller they are,
Well,
that means,
Are they bidding on the contracts though? I mean, that's just it. I mean, whoever turns in a bid is who's gonna get awarded. If they don't turn in a bid,
Yeah.
they can't get awarded.
Right. But that, it would be hard for somebody, my contention is, we don't actually have a contract with the city right now. We haven't had a contract with the city. They're just buying for us. We haven't gone up. Well, here's what we've been selling it for. Our equipment has become outdated. We do have trouble with it at times. I'll be the first to tell you that I'm on a first name basis with everybody at PD Dispatch. Because they call me at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. When they call, I'm up and I'm gone to get it fixed. We would, if there's savings there, I'm a taxpayer. At the end of the day, I'm a taxpayer. My dad's a taxpayer. We have a lot of property in this county, a lot of commercial property, some expensive residential property. We want, I want it down. I don't want to see money spent, but at the end of the day, if my road's in bad shape, I want guys out there working on my road, not hauling fuel. Really and truly, if y'all wanted to, you could eliminate the postal service. Just start hauling all, for the county courthouse, you could haul all the mail. You could eliminate a lot of, there's savings in a lot of it, but.
Brian, can I ask you a question? You gave us some numbers, roughly 60,000 for the county, that's at the pump. That's not including the
precincts.
No, sir.
Okay.
No.
And then 187 or 188,000 for the city.
The city, now that was gas and diesel and some bobtail stuff that they get. They've got some locations where they have tanks and generators.
All of that together is 188.
Yeah, and I'm sure they've got more fuel out there that the chief of police or different ones are out of town. They've probably got more than that, but not, I would think that would be 95% of it.
Okay. And that is a calendar year?
That is, June, 1st, 21 to, July 1st. Yes, it's a calendar year starting, July 1st, 21 through June 30th of 22. The county's fuel does fluctuate, their precinct fuel does fluctuate, but believe it or not, I've been doing the city's fuel for a long time weekly, and it's scary how legitimately close it is from week to week. I mean, it's 1,700 to 1,800 gallons of gas and 1,500 gallons of diesel every week.
What's that approximation on fluctuation? You said fluctuation for the precincts or the county.
But based on available tax money they have, so if, you know, if they can order 75 loads of rock this year instead of 20, you know, they're gonna be going and getting more, so they're gonna be burning, you know, they're gonna be doing more work. I think those guys, I'm sure they want their fuel costs up. You know, they want more money to spend on roads and stuff, you know, and I can see we're saving money on fuel, but, you know, definitely not against a fuel farm. You know, I welcome, you know, I welcome anything to save taxpayers money, you know, born and raised here. I don't think we should spend any that we don't have to, but there's a lot of costs with that, you know, electricity, tank insurance, line testing yearly, certifications, those electronic systems that bill all that out. Who's gonna run that? Who's gonna be trained? Somebody locally will have to be trained. So does the county add an employee or does the city add an employee? You know, when a driver drives off with a nozzle from the fuel farm, who's going to fix it? Who's gonna pay for it? I can tell you who's been paying for it in the past. I have. Cause we don't bill, we haven't ever, that I know of, we might have billed the city once or twice for a nozzle. I was telling somebody today that Hunter, one of the constables was headed out the North Highway not long ago, dragging a hose, nozzle, and a breakaway and everything. He forgot to hang it up. And, it's just, we consider it part of doing business. That expenditure, we just consider part of it. We take care of that. You know, I wouldn't want to bill a city employee that's living week to week for $100 nozzle, you know.
So from the city's perspective, you know, we're talking about the collaboration. Yeah, but you know, Mr. Blankenship brought up a lot of points. Have we looked at all of those type things, you know, as far as like maybe having to hire another employee or any of those type things? Have we looked at all of that when we realized that it would be a savings to us? Did we include all of those thoughts?
For us, the county would be overseeing the operation, so as my understanding, discussing with them, that they would run the operation, so we would not hire any more staff on our end. It would be no different for our staff. We would just go to that station instead of the other station we're going to right now. So, but the county, as I understand the plan was, they would man the facility, they would be responsible for the inspections, for the certifications and the insurance, and those aspects of it. So that's my understanding of it. So, and Commissioner Bass, if that's
correct.
So,
Do you have an idea, or maybe?
Kayla's currently working on the insurance, find out what we had to do. Ashley's been looking into that. They haven't found anything as of yet that we as a county through TAC have to add, but now that is something she's working on, so.
Okay. What about inspections and electricity?
We've been talking about to Justin Wall about all the, he'll probably be the one that we'll look at to help us get the findings of what it's gonna cost for the build and
Okay.
equipment. And he's got all the licenses and stuff, he'll do all that, all the certifications he'll follow through with, so that'll be something we'll have to get with him once we determine if we're gonna go forward or if we're not. I mean, you can work this thing to death and never move forward.
Well, I'd just like to see all of the what ifs, if as many as we possibly can.
Well, I think a key concern is, you know, that it would be maintained and whose responsibility that would be. But also from our staff, because they see the pros and cons of what we've got, and you're hearing the pros and cons of what we could go to. If it's not fixed, you know, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But what are some problems that the people who use this current system, what are problems that we've run against over the past years?
I've heard it a little as far as either not having fuel, or if the power goes out, the generator is not working. I've not used either the pumps or the facilities myself, but it's some inconsistency. With this plan, talking to Commissioner Bass, there would be a generator that we would have access 24/7. If a tornado came through, if some other event came through and shut the town down, that fuel station would be operational.
You're talking to our 3 chiefs who use it the most throughout 24 hours a day. It's the consistency, the availability. The locations are in pretty rough shape. The equipment is rather dated, and so having it available, I know, talking to the chiefs, they have to go to CEFCOs on a fair basis and to get fuel, and so the reliability would be a welcome change, and consistency would be welcome change. So, not that it couldn't be improved, it just has not been done so far. So,
Can I speak on that? One of the reasons we haven't improved some of our stuff is because we don't have a contract with anybody, and what we have with the city is done every 6 months. And in the last meeting, I think part of the other fuel company here was gonna take care of all this stuff for 7 years. You know, if that's something you guys would be interested in bidding out a contract and upgrading facilities and upgrading the system that's in place, a newer, more, I guess, hip, you know, they have systems now where when you hang your nozzle up, it automatically sends an email to the department heads. I mean, they have really nice systems that work that way, but it's a pretty significant investment with no security, and whether, you know, you've got the business. And I guess we've had what would be called a handshake deal with the city for a long time now. And I'll be the first, that's what I was saying earlier, you know, there's been times where we've had issues with power or whatever the issue may be, and we've always tried to get on top of it. And as far as, you know, a catastrophe here in town, there's been some issues where you had ice storms and we've had hurricanes on the coast that created an issue with fuel supply. When those instances happened prior to y'all being here, and, you know, back in recent years, we have shut all of our first responders off. All our better paying customers, or the people that pay more money that are not on the end, we shut their fuel off. Because we've always kept fuel in reserve for first responders. You know, I think everybody that's been a police chief or a fire chief at some point has talked to me, and I've told them, no matter the hour or the time of the day, you call me, and, you know, we've got the capabilities of pumping fuel without electricity. We don't need power grid to do it. We don't necessarily have a backup generator, but we've got trucks that we always try to stay ahead of it. But, you know, we would welcome the opportunity, you know, if the two entities together were, to me, the 6-month bid is an issue. Because getting somebody to come in and do work for you, they're not gonna come spend $200,000 on equipment and only bid it for 6 months and think, well, I could lose it in 6 months.
And that's for owning our own facility to solve that. But again, this is not to take away business from a local business. That's not what this goal. The goal is overall to save the taxpayers money.
Right.
We have the ARPA funds available to us. We didn't have them before, so that's the funding source we have. We didn't have before. We could use to fund our share of this. But it's overall to save the taxpayers money on a daily basis. And because we raised our fuel budgets this upcoming year, and we're hoping to bring that down again. So, but again, it's not to try to take this away from anyone. I mean, it's our taxpayers. That's what we're here for. It's our taxpayers, and kind of spread that money out further.
Snox and I are the senior members on this council, and I remember us accepting bids from oil companies in the past.
We did take bids, and what the agreement says is that it will, it lays out the terms on how it's priced. And it says that the agreement will automatically renew unless we give, I think it's 60 days notice. So there's an agreement in place, it just rolls forward until one side or the other opts out.
Thank you. I didn't remember the details, I just remembered we did it. Yes, sir.
Speaking on a private, I'm sorry.
Clayton, go ahead.
Speaking on a private business basis, we obviously bought a lot in the farming side of it, bought a lot of fuel, and it was a significant, especially for road diesel and highway gasoline, it was a significant difference. Now, we didn't have a tax break, obviously, we had to pay our federal tax on that, and we also had to pay our IFTA tax on our road fuel, but especially buying load fuel at a time and you got your own facility, it's kind of like buying power outside of, or on Encore, you bid your power out, and whoever's got the best deal on the power, that's where you go, and it's at a 20 cent a gallon deal, I think we're like $40,000 savings every year. I think it's gonna, in my opinion, in my background, I think it's gonna be significantly more. Trim and Arnold, WOI, they'll book diesel out for, they'll put book out for a couple of years if that's something that the council and the city, or the county and the council wanted to do. So if we saw something where we got into a cheap fuel situation, those big companies, they book a lot of that stuff out there. Just saying, there's pretty significant, in my opinion, it's gonna be significantly more than a $150,000 investment. Even if it was a $40,000 a year savings, that's a pretty quick payback.
Well, that's one thing to think about is, sir.
You mentioned passed a while ago, we've never had ARPA funds available to do projects like these, and we'll bring those federal money in here to save our local budgets. And
Exactly.
I mean, yes, it's gonna take a while to recoup that spending, but it's not coming out of your individual budgets. It's gonna be something that we use from a federal standpoint.
And one of the goals that we used, we did our budget for the ARPA funds, we look for things that have long-term benefit to our community, not today's pothole fixes, but things that we're gonna reap benefits that for years and years and years to come. And this one seems to meet that bill. Again, this is money that we would never have but for ARPA, and yes, there could be any number of things we spend the money on, but again, we tried to find ideas, and since the county was already proceeding, and we were thinking of doing it ourselves, and this has definite potential of reaping long-term benefits for our taxpayers in the future. So it seems like a wise thing to proceed and explore, at least tend to explore further with the county. We're not looking here to sign an agreement tonight. This is more, I know the county council get together and talk about the ideas, see if there is a consensus to move forward. If there's not, we can close that chapter and move on to something else. But if there is, we can keep discussing, and if there are more questions to be answered, we can answer those questions. And if it turns out that we find this not a good idea, then for our taxpayers, it's not a good idea.
So where are the significant savings coming from? Are we talking about because we're able to buy bulk now, you're gonna be able to save so much there, or what? What would be different than what we're already doing? So that's, I think, a lot of people, we don't, I didn't have a big business, so I don't understand all of that. So what are the significant savings, or where are they coming from versus what we already have?
Okay, Commissioner, I know you've been doing some research on that.
Several ways, I'm just talking about with buy equipment, we'll buy a little bit.
Piece of equipment, some to us another contract. Like Tarrant County is an example, they bid that beef,
Way out, maybe 18 months, 2 years out.
and they lock a price in. Well, if you'd have done that 18 months ago or 2 years ago, look at what the fuel price was then, you'd be locked in for that amount of time. Now, you would have to redo that when it come up to the days if you had to rebid it, but we would piggyback that. As a governmental jurisdiction, we can piggyback other contracts. So if we can find that broker that will find those specific savings for us, that's how you save a lot of money. And bulk is a part of that, because you're now, instead of paying the usage of pumps and tanks and other properties, you're using your own that you own, and you're not renting, there's savings there in many different ways. Now, there is gonna be an upkeep fee. That's gonna be, but you're gonna pay that anyway. If you go to CEFCO today, you're gonna pay an upkeep fee and a transport fee and in-ground tank fees, and you're still paying that in your fuel price. But we'll come and we'll buy this in a bulk over a period of time, and Brian kind of mentioned that the brokers, they're out there, but as Mr. Pilgrim said, you're buying off large amounts, copious amounts, versus going and filling your car up. That's different.
So, a period of time, maybe 4 or 5 years, you'll really just kind of see that significant gain over so many years. The longer you go, the more, yeah.
Well, we don't know what 2 years from now is going to bring us in the fuel system and with what's going on. We don't know. We just don't. So us having our own in-ground tanks and having a storage ability, and we could buy fuel out to bring in and have that security. I'm not a scholar in it, but we can bring those brokers and people in to talk to all of us and let them tell us what can be done. I'm not going to go out and do a whole ground pound this thing to death and do all this work, and we say, no, we're not going to do it. When we get serious about it and we're looking to move forward, then we'll bring folks in and then look at the systems that we have and what we're going to have to do with the ARPA funds that will put good equipment out there for us, a good secure location, and in an all-weather location. So,
And we piggyback in local, that's how we got emergency fund. So we piggyback on existing and local, they had already bid up prices, get good prices, and so we were able to piggyback through the ILA system and the state codes, and we were able to use their prices for our prices. So we're not strangers to that process. And yes, we won't recoup our expense in 1 year. It'll take a few years, but as we draft this, we're looking at an initial 10-year agreement with several renewals of 5 years. It should be a long-term commitment from both sides, and because that's how you eventually reap your savings. And also through the upkeep, maintaining and so forth, but having good equipment for long-term is good for both parties. But that would be critical, though. Also, we have to rely on the county, be part of content of the county, maintain and upkeep, and we have to share that cost, and but that's important as well.
So what site do we have, like, in building this facility? I'm sure you go by all the state codes and regulations and stuff, but what say does the city have on this?
Well, since it is a city limits, we have codes we have to enforce, building codes and fire codes and so forth, but we would work with them on that process like we do anyone else, and that'd be part of our process. They'd have to design it appropriately, review the process, review the designs, and so. But as for the fuel itself, that's usually state overseen. I believe there's licenses you have to have, and we do it for the airport, and so there's just testing you have to do. You have to maintain insurance and so forth, and so the county will be taking that on, as I understand it, according to
What's the anticipated cost? I mean, obviously, as you stated, that property was in pretty bad shape. But let's just say from the time of takeover till full build out, I mean, what's the anticipated cost on it each end?
we put an eye in for top of mind equipment that does all the managing, appropriation, fuel, monitoring
Concrete.
systems. It's gonna be as high as $400,000. He said that would be a total cap. You're not probably gonna pass that, but it could come in cheaper. And it depends on what we're gonna find once we get in there and bust the concrete out. I mean, you know how that is. But we'll do the cleanup where he said we'll manage our dirt and things on site. So, I mean, we're anticipating some problems. Don't get me wrong, we are. But,
That's not a terrible price.
no, well, the thing is, I mean, this is just me speaking. I can't speak for the council, y'all. But this is a team effort. This is the city council and the commissioners court holding hands out, shaking, and let's go in a partnership with this to work for many years in the future. If we're not willing to do that, then it's not gonna work for either entity. But I think as far as, I mean, I'm not a city taxpayer, but I'm a county taxpayer. I look at it as a security for us and a way to save money. So like Grayson said, we can move with other projects we've never been able to do before. And like I said, we've never had this federal money available like this, so it's gonna be an investment and a long-term investment. It's not gonna be an overnight, you save money tomorrow. It's gonna be a long-term, and it's gonna be a partnership over that to make it happen, so.
Well, I will say, just for a moment, in review of our kind of more marketing initiative, if you will, with North Star, there was one point that was made where, citizens that did the survey really wanted to see that relationship between the city and the county get better. And so when this was brought up, it was kind of a opportune moment, I suppose, that this was brought up, but what an awesome opportunity to have. to be able to work together. So I think that's I mean, whatever the case may be, I think sounds like we're pretty good with it. I mean, obviously we need to look at some numbers and make sure everything's good, but the idea of this sounds good. And
That's gonna be the partnership.
hopefully we can continue to have some good partnership, yeah.
As far as the security and surveillance system, is that contracted out, or how does?
We'll do that in-house.
It's monitored?
We monitor, I don't, sheriff, sheriff's here. Down in his dispatch, he's got courthouse cameras and cameras, we'll probably tie those in where his dispatchers are watching them 24/7, as well as we can have them at a courthouse with the security there as well on a monitor screen. So, once this thing's brought online, they'll be monitored. But it'll be in our security system. I mean, we could have them, I don't know, the sheriff's talking, we're looking at going over the same software system y'all use for your CAD system, where everybody's intertwined together. So it could be that these cameras are at PD as well.
Yeah.
Or
remote access.
anything's possible as long as we build it up front. So it's just up to us to make sure that we don't miss and uncover a stone, We want to make sure we do it right and what's going to be best for both entities. And security is very high.
Right, that's what.
So the good thing, these tanks are in the ground, at our precincts, our tanks are all above ground. So they're kind of vulnerable sometimes, so. Now we gotta get it out of the ground, so that's where these pumping systems and stuff come in, so.
And security is an issue. We've had theft of fuel, and so we've had to make some HR changes, and so for some people, but that's unfortunately happens. But having a security system with cameras and IDs and everything will make it a little tougher to do that. So.
Do you have security cameras, Mr. Rainey?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Okay. What security?
And one of the main reasons we haven't been too big, we've been there 20 years, and I've had one battery stolen off the pickup. We don't have a fence or anything. And I think the main reason is because the sheriff's officer or a police officer could pull in any minute, any time of the day or night.
And do all the time.
Sure. So, you can go to our office right now, and there's three trucks sitting there, and I can almost assure you that the key is in the ignition of all of them. I mean, our theory on that is, you leave the door unlocked, they don't bust the $900 window out. Your deductibles above, but, I don't think, regardless of where you're at, I don't think security would be that big of an issue with that much law enforcement there. That law enforcement presence, pushes it down the road or somewhere else. I think security cameras would be, that's definitely a plus. And the HR issues he was talking about, if there was more security footage, just so happened, I had cell camera pictures of most of that, so, we're there all the time, and we see a lot of people in and out, but, I think security on a man-free system out there, that you don't actually have somebody working there for the city and the county, I think you would have to have all that, because it would be needed. You wouldn't be able to gate, when you say fence, you'd only be able to fence 3 sides of it. You wouldn't be able to fence down the road, because that means a fire truck pulls up after a call at 2 o'clock in the morning, they gotta open a gate or have electronic gates going in and out, and, you could figure something out there, but I don't think you'd be able to completely fence it.
Mayor, that was my question, if I could speak. Would there, on the security of the gate, would there be fencing and a gate? So if it was a gate, would there be a keyless entry so that it would be accessible, or would it just be open?
That's what we had discussed, is a keyless entry with a code.
Okay, that was my one question. My comment to that is, it does require a permit from the city for that fence and that gate system. So that's not a big deal, but we do need to permit that. We'd also like to work with you on the design, the layout, so that we have a safe distance from the roadway into where the gate stops. So if a fire truck is pulling in, he can be completely off the road.
You'll come in from the north and come around to the back, is where you'll come in and go out frontwards.
On that note, and I hate to just keep being the devil's advocate, but this was mentioned one time before, and I really didn't think too much about it until I had to go I get called out to the emergency room from time to time to sign orders or whatever. Had to go up there, at 8 o'clock in the morning, roughly 8 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know if y'all have ever seen the traffic there at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I'm assuming it's very similar at 3:30, but that traffic from the school it is difficult to get in and out of there. So that's another concern that I have. I didn't really think about it. You know, someone mentioned it earlier on, and I thought, well, you know, it's a 4-lane highway, no big deal. But there is a lot of traffic there in the mornings, and I'm assuming it's there at 3:30 or so.
It's there at all hours. We have a business there, and then my daughter goes to daycare right there, so
Yeah.
it's busy all day.
Yeah.
It took me 5 minutes just to get to this meeting, just to get on my property. So I know, I sympathize with you on that for sure. It's a busy road.
Well, it was like named the third busiest entryway into the state of Texas.
Oh,
Yeah, about, I don't know, 10 years ago.
I didn't know that.
About 10 years ago, yeah, and it's very, yeah, those properties in that area is really
Didn't know that.
worth a lot.
But the entrance heading to the field station, if we had the new field station, it wouldn't be in an emergency situation, it would be post-emergency situation. So it wouldn't be a rush to get there, right?
I would think so.
Well,
Yeah,
you never know though, just in case if there is an emergency, I guess you bring up a good point. If you do get a call, I guess, that would be a pretty,
While you're
Yeah.
sitting there in line, and
we gotta go.
I understand they don't wait till it's on E before they go fill up. But if you're sitting there and traffic is backed up there, you know.
Yeah, I
That could
expect
be
my
an issue to
emergency
think about.
departments to have taken care of the tanks before a call comes out.
That's the point.
Yeah, they shouldn't be running to the gas station before running to the fire.
You gotta think too, they got lights in the siren.
Yeah, and if there's an emergency situation in that area, you still have to wait or get people out of the way with the sirens or whatever. Hopefully people will respect emergency vehicles, but, so you're gonna have the same situation whether you're in an emergency or you leaving a situation.
Well, I would suggest, we're not, I think we still have some more homework to do. I think we have some more cleanup to do, and so I think, what I'd like to bring back to the council is some more numbers that we work up. Again, this is mostly conceptual stage here. We want to kind of see, is there interest moving forward or not with having a joint venture here? I think there, and I'm hearing there is, and so a joint venture going together, and so, but I think we as staff can work with your representatives to kind of find him some numbers, and, because again, we want to make sure that it is actually beneficial to the taxpayers, and so we want to make sure that, and everything so far indicates that direction, and of course, there's never any way to guarantee a number, and that's our budgets are estimates to begin with.
I'd like to know what the jet, if you had Jet A and throw that in the pool with it too, whenever you bid it, because there might be enough buying power then, you really got some.
Yeah, I don't know if the same companies do that, but we can see about trying to throw that in there too, and so that'd be a good idea. But then we can also, in the meantime, be drafting up, we've got a draft, we'll share it with the county commissioners here for our ILA and work those details out. And then, so what I would do on our side is bring back to you, once we've worked out the details, a draft, the finalized ILA with some numbers you can look at, and then you can decide yes or no, or this is not worth it, or this is worth it, or not. But again, if anyone has any concerns or thoughts, please let us know, because we want to work through those things. And
So you will include, when you come back to us, you will include some projections?
yes, yeah, we can work that up. Yes, so, and if that sounds good on from y'all side too.
I think we have a consensus here, move forward to see.
The goal was, number one, we didn't want to waste a lot of legwork and hard work time. We're busy too. And, we're managing a county out of 5 individuals and other elected officials, but we've got a plate full. So, if we want to bite this off, it's going to take more than me to do this. But I'm willing to do the legwork to get a true draft for you guys and ladies to look at, and the public as well. I would like to bring some other specialists in. If we have another workshop, we can invite some folks to come in and educate all of us, because I think that would help. And if we find that there's a detriment to this, then we will move forward. But I didn't want to do a whole lot of extra work on top of what I got going on and then say, well, we're not going to do this. So I'm hearing positive things, I'll say that, and good questions as well, because I need to learn a lot of them myself. And I know all of us do, I should say.
We did reach out to East Texas City Managers Association and ask if other cities and other counties have a collaboration like this. There's only one other city that partners with a hospital. And I had a handful of city managers said, no, we don't, but if you do this, we're watching, we want to see how it works. So I think there would be interest. And it would be nice to be on that leading edge, just show people, this is how you take care of your citizens.
We have a lot of trailer plants and a lot of solar panels, so everybody's watching in all different directions here, so it's exciting knowing that we're here at the same meetings and never met some of you guys and ladies, but it's a pleasure and we look forward to continuing going positive in a positive way forward.
Sounds like you've done a lot of the legwork. If you need any help at all, I mean,
Don't say that.
you know, well, within reason, but
I
yeah.
can give you contacts that I know that can answer some of the questions, but if I can be of assistance, I'm not hard to find.
It's gonna take all of us.
And from the council's perspective, if you want to have another joint where you listen to such, or if you want to select some representatives as a subcommittee to work on this with staff, we can do that. That way we can move a little easier through and smoother the process. But otherwise, if you want to have another combined council meeting, that probably can do that too, but, what's that? Yep. We can do that, so we'll start, we'll work with, yeah, so work with the county commissioners and start organizing those steps and do some legwork and then figure out what we should do next, so.
And there's a lot of other things we can do, like with Brian and Minton, they may come in and help us manage this system for a fee. You see what I'm saying? We may could use them. They're local, they know the business. We use our facility, we build the facility. I mean, they have input as well, so the table's open right now.
And if Ms. Harris, wants to do any research on legal ramifications, if this is done anywhere else in Texas, that might be helpful to Mr. Bass and all of us. Judge Bell, are you ready to adjourn your meeting? Then we'll adjourn ours.
Yes, item number 2. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? So we have a motion and a second. That's Commissioner Bass and Commissioner Skidmore. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Item number 4.
Thank you.
I'll hear a motion from adjournment.
So moved.
And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for coming.